When the Syrian revolution started, no one believed that the Syrian opposition has role in erupting or in creating such revolution. It was a simultaneous revolution, like what's happened exactly in Tunisia, disorganized revolution, and has no leadership or ideology. But when things going after 6 months, and the Syrian, they look in Libya, where the example of Transitional National Council in Libya was successful in bringing the international support and getting the international community to take actions to protect the civilians in Libya. The Security Council acted very quickly in Libya. After 11 days, adopted the Security Council Resolution 1970. The killings continued by Gaddafi forces. The Security Council adopted the Resolution 1973, which give the Security Council the approval to protect the civilians under the responsibility to protect. In Syria, the Syrians, they are looking to the same model. They know the Assad regime will not go by himself, by negotiations, and they need actions from the Security Council. And if you need actions, you have to have one united voice from the opposition. This is why the idea to have the Syrian National Council as an umbrella organization for all the human rights, all the Syrian opposition groups to be within. We start the meetings of the Syrian National Council in August 2011. It's not an easy to unite an opposition very fragmented, have different ideologies, have different backgrounds. They never sit with each other before. They don't have debate. They don't have discussion. And more of that, they are ruled under 40 years of dictatorship, where there is no such culture or sense of unity. It's not an easy thing. We start and have very, very difficult time to bring all of the Syrian opposition to the table and agree about the establishment and creation of the Syrian National Council in October 2nd, 2011. And after that, the organization grew up a little bit, but because we did not get the support from the international community, there is no actions being taken against the Assad regime to protect the civilians in Syria. This has undermined the credibility of the SNC, or the Syrian National Council, because the Syrian people, they saw that someone who living in Washington or in Paris or in Istanbul cannot defend the Syrian people. This is why the growing credibility and support of the Free Syrian Army, those became the heroes in the hearts and the minds of the Syrian people, because those, they are on the ground and they are defending the Syrian people, but even that's by their lives, by all the necessary means. And that's undermined the credibility of the Syrian National Council. But still a lot of challenges ahead of the Syrian National Council to get more organized, to be able to build such organization who are able to govern Syria after the fall of the Assad regime. And because now as many areas has been liberated, and should we have a central government. The diversity within the Syrian society reflected on the Syrian National Council. The Syrian National Council include Alawite, Christian, Druze, Sunni, Kurds, Arabs, Turkmen, and all of this. Syria has more than 17 minority groups, ethnic, religious groups, and that's put a lot of challenge when you are in the transition process, because in transition you cannot do an election and you cannot test the popularity of each group, and this is why you have to work with the consensus. In the consensus, then you have a huge you have to spend a huge time in negotiating, in bargaining, and setting up the rules. Maybe you don't agree, but you have, because it's not an easy to have a decision after consensus. Different groups coming from different backgrounds, different ideologies, they have agreed that Bashar Assad has to go, but they have to agree to work together. And this is the difficulties we struggle and face in the Syrian National Council.